Hello everyone, and welcome to the third Learn-chinese.online video. In this video, we will start studying Chinese writing. We'll see the origin, structure, and classification of Chinese characters. I will teach you how to practice your Chinese handwriting. And finally, we will learn how to write our first two characters. The oldest complete form of Chinese writing we know comes from the Shang dynasty in the late 2nd millennium BC. Those characters were written on animal bones or turtle plastrons using pyromantic divination. We call this writing oracle bone script or jiaguwen in Chinese. At the bottom of the slide, we can see the characters for horse. The oracle bone script was mostly pictographic. At the end of the Shang and during the next dynasty, the Zhou, we found a lot of text written on bronze. Characters look much more rounded because of the ease of writing them in the wet clay of the molds used to make the bronzes. We call them bronze script. After the Zhou, Chinese characters became progressively more stylized. We can see the evolution of the horse character on the bottom row. It is called the seal script because those characters are now used to write names on Chinese seals. During the Qin dynasty, the writing surface changed to paper and the characters were written with brush and ink. The first emperor unified the writing system and made it official. We call it the clerical script. The art of calligraphy slightly changed after the Qin dynasty to create the characters used until now. We call it the regular script. The last thing to know about Chinese writing script is that two kinds of Chinese characters currently exist, traditional and simplified. In the 1950s, the Chinese government promulgated a standardized simplification of Chinese characters. Take a look at this character, which is the Chinese character for horse. This is the traditional script. Now look at this one on the right. It is much simpler. This is the simplified version of the character horse. There are actually more than 2,000 characters with the traditional and simplified version. Simplified Chinese is used in mainland China. In Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Macau, people still use traditional characters that are also often used in Chinese calligraphy and, of course, in all books. In this course, we will learn simplified Chinese characters. But at the end of each complete set of lessons, I will make a special video to teach characters that also have a traditional script. Now, a frequently asked question. How many Chinese characters are there? The Dictionary of Chinese Variants form lists more than 100,000 characters. This is just incredible! The Great Companion of Chinese characters has more than 50,000 different characters, while not including variants. Do we need to learn all those characters to read and write Chinese? Thank God, no! With the 900 more frequently used Chinese characters, we can read 90% of modern literature, newspapers, novels, and so on. With 2,500 Chinese characters, we can read 97.97%, and with 3,500 characters, we are able to read 99.48% of modern texts. There are a lot of characters, but we don't need to know all of them. Now, let's have a look at the structure of Chinese characters. When we look at the character Hao, to be good, fine, we can see that it is composed of two basic characters called components. On the left is the component for woman, and on the right the component for child. The character on the right-hand side is ni, you. We can also see two components. On the left, the component for humans, and on the right, the ancient Chinese character for you, which in turn can be divided into two components, the roof on top and small underneath. You have to keep in mind that Chinese characters are not individual pictures, but most of them are composed of basic characters called components. There are fewer than 200 components. With them, we can write thousands and thousands of Chinese characters. The last useful thing to know before starting to learn the writing is the classification of Chinese characters. First, the pictogram. For example, a tree will be written like its pictorial representation. If we combine several trees, we can express the idea of forest. These kinds of characters are called compound ideographs. Another example with the sun and the moon. Together, they form the character for light. Another way to create a Chinese character is to use a component for the meaning and another to indicate the pronunciation. Here you can see, on the left, the Chinese character for woman, and on the right, the character for horse, which is pronounced ma. Together, they form the character for mum, ma. Mummies are women, and the pronunciation is very close to the character for horse. Rebus characters are phonetic loans. For example, there is an unused character for fruits on trees, which is pronounced lai, and there is the word to come, also pronounced lai, but this word does not have its own character yet. So, we use the characters for fruit on trees to write the word to come. Finally, there are derivative cognates, which are variants evolved from the same root. For example, this very old character from Oracle Bone script represents an old bent gentleman with long hair, indicating old age. Two modern Chinese characters are derived from this old one. The first character is Lao, to be old, and the second is Kao, to test, to take an exam. The pronunciation is a bit similar, and thus we can create a character for the notion to take an exam, which would not be easy to represent otherwise. Now we are going to talk about learning Chinese characters. First of all, we need to pay attention to the structure of the character. You can see that the two characters on the left-hand side are different from the one on the right-hand side. Same things for those. The characters are the same but with a different layout. It is important to keep in mind that a Chinese character is written inside an imaginary square. On the left side, we have two characters, but on the right-hand side, we just have one. This makes a critical difference. It's a common mistake for the beginner to put too much space between the components of the same character. So, it is a good idea to use writing grids when you begin to learn Chinese characters. When you will be more confident with your writing, you will be able to write on blank sheets of paper, but you must pay attention to write your characters inside an imaginary square. Another very important point to keep in mind. When learning to write a Chinese character, it is imperative to respect the stroke order. That is to say, the proper order and correct direction in writing strokes. For example, please observe the writing of the character ni. There is only one way to write it. Some beginners think that it won't make a difference. Of course, if you write slowly, we won't see too much of a difference. But one day, you will write more and more quickly. Your writing will be more cursive, and then your Chinese characters will be unreadable. So, each character has a stroke order to follow and remember. You can see the writing of the characters stroke after stroke, with a little arrow to indicate the direction of the stroke. As I said before, it is good to have writing grids when you begin to learn Chinese characters. You can download those writing grids on Learn-chinese.online. Just click on the link in the description below or write Learn-chinese.online on your favorite browser. You don't need to create an account or login. Just scroll down and click on Level 1 Let's Go button. Click on Lesson 1 Greetings. Scroll down, find the link Writing Characters and click on it. Then, click on Click here to download grids and the writing sample grid. Unzip and open the folder. The first image is a sample. You can see how the exercise is done. You can then open and print the two other images to practice. When you have printed your writing grids, you have to learn the standard writing exercise. It is good to follow some rules. First, write the pinyin and the meaning next to the character. Then, with the stroke order in sight, you write down the same stroke order on the first line, stroke by stroke, with a little arrow in a different color. I write the first stroke and the arrow. Then I write the first stroke and the second with the arrow. Now, the first, second, and third stroke with the arrow, and so on. Remember to take your time, never rush. When you have completed the stroke order, you write the full character in each square. You must pay attention to follow the correct stroke order when you write each character. You can look at the stroke order, but try to write the character slowly without looking at it. What you must not do is to draw the character. You could be tempted to draw it, because the Chinese font is taken from brush-type calligraphy, but you have to write each stroke in one go. When you write each character, it is a very good thing to say out loud the pronunciation of the characters and the English translation. In that way, you will simultaneously use three kinds of memorization: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, which is the memory involving body movements. You will remember the characters in a much more efficient way. Now, let's learn your first character, ni, you. First, have a look at its etymology. On the left, we can see the component for human. In ni, this component is twisted to fit in the character. The right-hand side component is the ancient Chinese character yu. It is a rebus character. The original image shows a support frame for yarns, possibly silk yarns. Now, let's have a look at the writing. First, look at the animation. Then pause the video and try to write this character on a blank sheet of paper, just for fun. The actual exercise is on the writing grids. The animation is shown twice, with, then without, the outline. Now I give you the stroke order and you can do the exercise on writing grids as shown before. Now the character how, to be good, to feel good. On the left, you can see the component for the woman, and on the right, the component for the child, which represents a swaddled baby. The oldest meaning found for this character is to have a nice appearance. Actually, this character has a lot of meanings and uses. You only need to remember to be good and to feel good. Now, let's study the writing. Same as before, look at the animation, then pause the video and try to write this character on a blank sheet of paper, just for the sake of it. Now I give you the stroke order and you can do the exercise on the writing grids as shown before. And now you can write your first word in Chinese, hello. Pause the video and write it down in Chinese characters. Then start the video again. Now let's have a look at this word. Did you write it correctly? I bet you did. Learning Chinese writing is tough. Don't give up if you make some mistakes. Those who go the furthest are not those who never fall, but those who get up every time. This video is now over. Thank you for watching it to the end. In the next video, we will see 5 more Chinese characters. See you there.